assumption, we're going to make sure that we can pass them, but keep them on the ground. When we do this with either forward pressure, because he cannot stand up. I am here, right? Because his feet have to engage to be able to stand up. If his feet can't touch the floor, right, there's no way for him to stand up. So I'm back here, his feet can touch the floor, and he can stand up, right? We don't want people to be able to stand up, so we pressure forward, and we try to get them on their back. This is the category of like what we're doing. We're playing the game, right? We want to keep them on the floor. To do so, we're going to either use forward pressure or just space control, where I can stand here and he has to either address me to get further away, or I can literally pass them by and go, right? So you have 3 zones you can really be in. You can be just outside where his feet can't touch the ground. You could be pressuring in, right? Or you could be going to the side. When we're doing this, we're just going to assume we can get past these leggies and establish some form of side control. For side control, I'm going to be blocking his hips and type of shoulder control, whether it is both on one side, wrapped around the head, wearing gi, controlling the shoulder, right? Why am I choosing to try to control these points? Well, for him to move, assuming that there is a weight here, he wants to remove the amount of pressure applying down to him. So, imagining there is weight here, right? As you saw, he moved himself offline, right? Breaking the weight that would be directly in line, and then moving. How did he do so? He moved both of his hips and his shoulders off from that center line. So we know if we can block these said things, apply that said weight, it is harder for him, right? So now we are looking to have that effect on a human. I'm going to either block his hip, my knee, my arm, because you do not have to block both sides. If you want a reaction, aka I want him to turn up to me, right, and I block like so, I know he wants to turn up. Okay, so whatever control you take the control that gives you the result you want, right? I personally prefer this type of side control, where it is underneath the head, right? I am essentially either touching here or underneath the armpit. Underneath the armpit is my, I guess, preferred, if I was to say, but you can also go on top, right? Elbow should be controlling the hip, right? And I'm going to drive my hip to him, and my chest is going to make chest-to-chest contact, right? If you're doing all of the things, but you're not making chest-to-chest contact, and he decides he wants to leave, he is going to, right? You could forgo one of these things and have good chest-to-chest contact. You see how it's much harder, right? That chest-to-chest contact is your biggest pinning mechanism. Use it. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay. So, for this hip, I'm kind of almost laying on it, right? But if you don't want to lay, you can always just put your knee there.
If you're putting your knee there, you have to keep your butt down. Like, you can't have your butt straight up in the air. And you do that with like spreading your legs a little wider. Right? See how high his knee is up here. Right? If his knees are close together here, there's nothing. There's no pressure. If he was to lay pressure, and I mean, all of his weight would be going over here, which would make it easy to roll him. Right? Yeah, if you're going knee, you have to get wide legs and get your center of gravity down, which is why a lot of people find it easier to go hip to keep yourself low. Yeah.
Right. This other hand, if you can put it both in his armpit and on his hip, this is not a bad idea. The only reason this can be a bad idea is it does stop your ability to post out. So like if he decides to close his elbow to his side, I no longer have my ability to post, right, unless I can get my thumb out. Make sense? Okay. We'll come give it a try.
Pressure.
We know what effects we want, but we know what effects that we don't want our partner to have the ability to do. So when we're looking at like how we're winning this positioning, as he says, causing that misalignment, you don't have to just do misalignment with the upper body, you can do misalignment with the lower body as well.
Okay.
Right? You can also pull elbows and get a type of cross body control, right? When you're looking at a human, when we're looking for misalignment, we're looking for a type of rotation because our spine is a fixed spot, right? And it doesn't mean just rotationally. I can have misalignment on a horizontal plane as well, right? So this is rotational misalignment, and this is a misalignment due to positioning. Does that make sense?
Yep.
I don't know what you'd call it. Do you know what you call it? No. Anyway, it's misalignment. We're looking to cause misalignment, right? So,
Scoliosis.
yeah. So if I could take his hip and drive it, right? You see how his hips are now misaligned? The problem is if I focus too hard on trying to get him to rotate that direction, right? And you see how my weight is lifting, he's easy to rotate that way. So you don't want to overcommit to this concept, but misalignment is powerful, right? So if I'm just coming in, the first type of misalignment I'd go for is typically the chin, right? And if I'm looking to better the position, I walk my hips to smash their hips, right? But I don't let the ability of smashing the hips to make these arms stronger to get me off of him. So if I make too much space and he's able to capitalize, I'm in a very weak position to fight him, and he's in a pretty strong position to basically capitalize on that mistake. So, we're here in side control, right? Like, I want to cause misalignment. We're like, oh, this one's not doing the job for me. See how I walk, but here I'm gonna keep driving with my hips, right? You see how that pressure is there?
Yep.
And then I can, again, either capitalize over it or just stay on the hip and work my way back up to isolate to the shoulders. But either way, I'm looking for some type of misalignment when I'm in this side control. Now, gi has some added benefits of being able to attack and control a human being differently. So if I was in gi, this ability for me to control his shoulder lines with one hand. Can you rotate for me? Can you rotate this way for me? Right. I am controlling his shoulder line, right, through this type of grip. Not am I quote super effective because his top is already open, right? But you know, I have a decent amount of control here, which allows me to free up this hand to do things like pull his elbow up. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So, don't be afraid to utilize the gi if it improves your ability to control. Yep. The punch, if you're here, being able to punch the floor or directly down like so. I don't recommend picking up your body weight unless you're going like knee on belly. So if you're air quote here, this is okay to be directly up and down. But you can always pull it to you. Does that make sense? Okay, so when looking for control points, again, shoulders, hips, and affecting the alignment. Find ways to affect the alignment in different ways than just the chin, because you can't always get just the chin. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay, give it a try. Good morning.
Good morning. Sorry.
You? Yeah, dose. All right. So when we're looking at this side control, now we've helped define a little bit of the positioning, right? Now, if we want to isolate up to the shoulders, all we are going to do is either rotate our hips or we are going to split our legs on top of the shoulders. Well, when I say rotate our hips, I'm going to drive this knee into his armpit basically. I'm going to pull myself that way, utilizing this hand. I'm going to make space utilizing this hand. You see how I replace this knee with this one. I work it up. Now that space is there. Does that make sense? Now I'm pulling and rotating him because now I can also put this knee a little further back, right? But now you see how my knee is on top of his head, right about where his head should be, right? It can be here on top of the shoulder to isolate, like if I was doing an arm bar. Does that make sense? But what we're looking for is the type of control that would isolate movement from the shoulders. Now, if it has the effect, wedging underneath, etc., pinching, all of those things are what we're looking for. We just want the rotation of the upper body to be limited, right? So he can't take his hand and move it around and wiggle, right? It's very hard to rotate and move your arm around without a shoulder. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Perfect. So, when we're here, I'm going to affect the rotation of that shoulder, right? I'm going to capitalize on the ability to fill the space, right? And I'm going to isolate up to it. Does that make sense? Perfect. Now that I have that side, I can also start to take this side. You see I'm taking the rotation out of this, right? And I can either forego one side while still keeping it under control. Or I can forego this side after capitalizing and keeping it for control and dominate one side, right? But all I'm doing is trying to focus and isolate to the upper body, right? So we made it past the legs, right? We're going to keep this person down. Now we're going to isolate into the upper body. How you do this can look in a myriad of ways. Does that make sense? But what I'm looking for is the desired effect of being able to stop mobility in his shoulder. I don't know if that makes sense, but as a concept, I don't really care what you do as long as you get the desired effect. Whether that is like so, like so, right? I just want you to figure out how to isolate into a shoulder. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Perfect. All right, go play.